all, this is Creative Works by Annie, and today we're going to be working on the Small Skull Doily, long overdue video for those who can't really read a pattern but still want to create this. I do encourage you to get the pattern because maybe following along with me and the pattern will help you learn to understand how to do patterns a little bit more. So I have an order for a off-white doily. So I'm using Aunt Linda's Big Huge Giant Ball. Fun fact, I can get 18 postmortems doilies out of one ball of this stuff. I took notes and made tally marks on that. I'm also using one of my favorites here. It's a size 5, or I believe that one is, let me get my cheat sheet, size 5. It's a 1.9, but mine run a little smaller, so it's probably about a 1.75 millimeter. Because my vintage hooks didn't tend to be regulated when they create those. So I don't really go by the pattern because I have made probably hundreds of these. So if what I do in this video is a little different from what on the pattern, either go by the video or go by the pattern, you're going to get basically the exact same results, okay? But I am going to tell you row numbers so that way you can follow. If you want to learn a little bit how to do patterns or read patterns and stuff, you'll be able to do this, okay? Okay, we're going to do a simple slip knot. Sorry, I got arthritis in my pinky. I got to snap that back into place there. And we're going to join 6 to make a ring, or to chain 6 to make a ring. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just making a ring. Now a little trick I do, because I hate tucking in tails, I will take this tail, wind it through here, or twist it around, put it through my loop I just took my thing out of, my hook out. It's early. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And so then it's like looped around, and so I already have my tail tucked in. Okay? And I'm just going to be working over that. I do this a lot with my doilies because it's just, for me, it's easier. And then it's kind of like making a magic circle, a weird magic circle, I guess, in a way, which I absolutely don't like making those. I've never mastered those. So whoever can do magic circles, you are magical. That's all I gotta say. Okay, so you're gonna chain 8. And if you counted, I only did 7 there because that's my little trick. Then you're going to be just ignoring this. If you tucked in your tail like I just showed you, just ignore that and work over it, okay? You're going to double crochet in there. It's tricky if you do that. Okay, double crochet on that. You're going to chain 5. And you're going to, I have an Aries, hopefully he lays down. You're going to double crochet in there again. You want to do that so that way you have 5, sorry, not 5. You want to do that little cat issue. Grab my coffee again. So now we're going to put, we're going to chain 5 and DC in this loop over the tail if you tuck that in. And we're going to do that 7 times because we want a total of 8, what equals 8 DC. And this chain right here will be the DC and the 5 in between. Okay? And if you mess up this row, it messes up the whole thing. I've had 9 skulls before. I've had 7 skulls before. You want 8. Because otherwise it gets a little weird. I usually wake up, I have weird sleeping habits. I usually wake up around 11:30, 12 o'clock-ish and start my day. So this is not unusual. I'm not a night owl. I've been called a bat. That's kind of why I have bats in my logo. It's not for the creep factor. It's because some people call me a bat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 2, 3, 8. And then close it off with that last 5. Okay. Now before I close it off, I'm going to pull that little tail and snip it. Just so that way it neatens up. Okay. And as you can see, I already tucked in my tail. You can go back and tuck that in if you want. I find that it's secure enough. Get that twisted. Okay, now we're just going to join it in the third one. I join it in the second just because I only did 7 there. So I find that the way I crochet, DC is equal to 2 chains, otherwise there's sometimes it equals to 3, and it's just, so it just depends on what your pattern is and what it calls for. For this pattern, I put it in the second one instead of the third one. But if you're following the pattern and you're chaining 8, put it in the third. Okay? Now we're going to slip stitch to that first chain. We're going to chain 3. And work what we call a shell. Shell, everybody knows what a shell is. It's usually, if you're following the pattern, it'll say sometimes it's 1 set of stitches, and other times it'll be a different set of stitches. In this particular shell, it's going to be 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC. So we're going to chain 3 because that's the beginning of this one. Do another DC, chain 2, DC, DC, we're going to chain 1, okay? And we're going to do that all the way around, and we're going to join with a slip stitch in the top of the beginning chain. Okay. Just finishing up the last double crochet, our chain 1, and then slip stitch into the top of the beginning chain there. Okay, now it's a good time to also double check and make sure that you have 8 shells, 8 of these little things, because it's easier to frog now and correct the matter than when you get like this big and you're like, ah. Okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm good to proceed. I'm going to take a sip of coffee and then I will proceed to round 3. Okay. Now I'll show you another little trick that I do. You're supposed to slip stitch into the next stitch and then into the chain stitch. I bypass all that and I will just chain one and then slip stitch into there. It's so much quicker. It's truly so much quicker when doing that type of a thing. Okay, now round 3, we are starting our shell again. We're going to shell in that same spot. And this time we're going to chain 3 between the shells. Okay, we're going to skip this chain, work right into that other shell. Okay, I'll meet you when I get to that side. Okay, finishing up that last shell, chaining 3, and we're going to join once more at the top of the beginning chain. Okay, now we're going to work round 4. We're going to be working it in the shells and this little chain space. I'm going to do my little chain 1 and slip stitch over there, working my beginning shell. Now we're going to be working a chain 2, a double crochet, chain 5, and a double crochet, chain 2, and 2, and your shell in the next shell space. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Okay. So then you want to repeat this in each one of these little sections right here, okay? And I will meet you on that side. Okay, I'm on my last shell. Do you see in there? Do you see? We're going to end with a chain 2, and we're going to once again slip stitch into the beginning chain. Okay, before I start the next row, I just automatically go put myself in the right spot. Now we are going to start round 5. Okay, we're going to start with being in the first shell space here. We're going to chain our 3, DC in there, do our 2, do a regular shell, regular beginning shell right there. Now we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip these stitches, skip the chain, and we're going to work 7 double crochets in this chain space right here. Once we have our 7, we're going to chain 2, and we're going to shell in the next shell space. Okay. So we're going to shell, chain 2, 7 DC, chain 2, and shell. Okay. We're going to repeat that all the way around, and I'll meet you over on that side. Okay, here I am at my last little section here. I'm going to do that shell in the shell space. I'm going to do my chain 2. Let's skip the chain, 7 DC in here, skip the chain, and then join up at the top. 7, chain our last 2, and join in the top there. Okay, and then I always chain 1, get myself set up for the next row. So it will kind of curl just a bit. It will work its way out. Don't worry about that one. Okay? So we are going to be starting round 6 right after I have a coffee break. Okay, round 6, we're going to shell in the shell space. We're going to chain 2. We're going to skip this. We're going to be working a DC together in this one, and basically working our teeth right here, chaining 2, and then working in the shell again. Okay, and we're going to do that all the way around. So we're going to start our shell in the shell space. Okay, we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip this chain, and in this first stitch we're going to work a DC together, okay, also known as a DC cluster. In my written pattern I have it as a DC tog, or a 2 DC in the pattern. It's also known as a, you could also say a 2 DC decrease, but in the same stitch. So a lot of different names for it, but it's you're basically making 2 DC, but combining them to be 1, so it's a cluster. Okay, we're going to start it, do it again. Okay, so it's a little cluster of just 2 DC. Okay, going to chain 1, skip the stitch, DC in the next one, chain 1, skip stitch, DC in the next one, chain 1, skip the stitch, another 2 DC tog right in this last stitch there. I think on the pattern I have it as just doing a single DC. So you can either just do, if you can't do the DC togs on this, just do a regular DC. Okay, this kind of just like finishes off the side of the jaw. That's basically why I make it a little thicker. Okay, so now we're going to do a chain of 2, and we're going to work our shell in the shell. Okay, and I will meet you over here. Okay, now I am at the very end of my row, so I'm going to do my shell in the shell, chain 2, do my last 2 of the shell, going to chain 2, skip that stitch, DC tog, sorry about that, DC tog in that first stitch, or DC together. Remember, you can use just a single DC in there. Going to chain 1, skip a stitch, DC in the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, DC in the next stitch, chain 1, skip the stitch, and DC together in the next one. Like I said before, you can just use a single DC in there. Going to chain 2, and we're going to finish off the row by joining in that beginning chain. Okay, and you can see we have our first row of teeth. Okay, we're going to start row 7, and we're going to be starting to work the cheekbones across here. Okay, so I'm going to start with my beginning shell in the shell space. This time we're going to chain 3 because we got to stretch down to right over here. We're going to work a single crochet in that chain space. Now if you make it a little tighter, it will stand next to the tooth, I guess we'll call it, side of the jaw, a little bit better, and it won't slide over, okay? So keep that one tight. I don't normally say do a tight stitch, but for something like this, aesthetically, do a tight stitch. Okay, see? Nice and tight, right up against it. Now we're going to single crochet all the way across in every stitch and chain space, okay? And our last single crochet is going to be right there on the outside. You don't have to make the inner ones super tight. They're not going to slide around. Okay, I'll crochet my last. Now I am going to make this one a little tighter so that way it doesn't slide and just look not too nice. Okay, so another nice tight one right there. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to do a shell in the shell space. Okay, let's see. Okay, and I will meet you over on this side. Okay, I'm back and I'm starting my last little section. So we're going to be working that shell and shell. Chain 3. Working a single crochet in there, remember, keep it tight. Now we can loosen up a little bit and crochet or do a single crochet in all the stitches and chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, now we're going to do a single crochet right in this chain space. We're going to keep it tight right up against that stitch. Okay, we're going to chain 3 and finish off the row. See that little trick of chaining 1 and going right in there? It just, for me, it's just so much faster. I'm hoping that you might enjoy that as well. So there is row 7, and we will be moving on to row 8, where we create the upper cheekbones, the under eye sockets, I guess, and the nose space. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do our beginning shell once again. And we're going to chain 3. And we're going to skip this chain space right here, and we're going to work a half double crochet in this first stitch. Okay. Now we're going to work a single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 3, and this will give you the nose space. We're going to skip the stitch in the middle, single crochet in that next stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and do an HDC or half double crochet in that last stitch. We're going to chain 3. I got a cat here, and we're going to shell in the next shell space. Okie dokie. So as you can see, we have a nice little nose. We have the bottom chin, we have the teeth, we have the cheekbones, and we got the nose now. So just repeat that all the way around, and I will see you on this side. Okay, I'm ready to start my last section here. So I'm going to shell in the shell space. Going to chain my 3. Skip the chain space right here. Going to HDC or half double crochet in that first stitch. I'm going to single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Going to chain 3 to create the nose. Single crochet in, or we're going to skip the stitch and single crochet in the next. Going to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then half double crochet HDC in that last stitch. Going to chain 3 and finish off the row. Okie dokie. Fix my ball of thread here. It's the problem with such a big ball. It's a pain in the butt because it weighs so much it puts tension on the thread. Okay, we're going to start round 9, and this is going to be with creating the eye sockets and expanding this section out a little bit to help go around the skulls, to frame the skulls. Okay, so our shells are going to change a little bit during this round. Okay, so we're going to do our beginning, our chain 3, DC, chain 2, work 2 double crochets in there, going to chain 2 again, and work 2 more double crochets in that little spot, if my hook and thread cooperate. Okay, let me put this down here for you. Okay, so we have a regular shell, but we have 2 extra hanging out there. Okay, now we are going to chain 3. We're going to skip this chain, and in the pattern I use a just a double crochet, but I adapted it because I just like the way it looks. Remember, this is my first pattern I ever wrote, so it has a lot of quirks to it. But I use a DC together, okay, in this next stitch instead of a single DC. You can do either way, okay? But it's just like over here, it kind of adds a little thickness to it. So I'm going to skip this is what would be considered like a hidden stitch right here because we used a half double crochet. For some reason that likes to hide. So in the next stitch, I'm going to work the DC, a regular single DC or a DC together, whichever you prefer, okay? Then I'm going to chain 5, 5, oh, I got 4 there. And I'm going to half double crochet in the nose space right here. Come on. Okay, we're going to chain 5 again. And we're going to skip 1, 2, 3. We're going to put a double, either a single DC in this last stitch, or if you did the double or the DC tog right here, do another one to match. So whatever you put here, do it right here to match, okay? I'm going to just show you what a single DC looks like so you can see the two and you can choose which one you like the best. Okay? See, this is just a single and this is a DC together, you can see it kind of just adds a little bit more oomph to it, okay? But you can choose either do a single DC or do this DC together. Just make sure that it's on both sides. Gonna pull this out real quick. Okay, and work my DC together in there. I'm gonna pull the cat hair from my finger. I'm gonna chain 3. And then in this shell space, I'm gonna do like what I have over here. I'm gonna work the 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC, okay. Now we have our oddball shells and shells where we expanded, as well as our little eye sockets for our skull, okay? And I will meet you over on this side. Okay, before I start my last little section here and join it, I'm going to suggest that you lay it flat and you check and make sure that all your shells all the way around have your 3 sections in it. It's better to frog now than when you get out or start doing the next row or the next row and you realize, ugh, I messed up. Okay, so make sure each one has the 3 sets of 2 DC. Okay. Okay, looks like I'm good to go. Let's finish off the row. Believe me, I have done that before. That's why I'm suggesting to you, always make sure you double check. The most important rows in this pattern is the first 2 rows right here where you make sure that you have the 8 chain spaces, or 8 DC right there, the 8 chain spaces, and the 8 shells. Okay, that's the first. The foundation is the key. And then the next important row is row 9, where you have the 3 sections, or the 3 sets of DC. Okay, so let's finish off the row. We're going to work our 3 sets of DC in here. I hear a cat coming. Okay, so we have our last set of 3 there. Going to chain 3. We're going to skip the chain space, skip the hidden stitch. Whether you're using a DC together or a single DC, we're going to do that in the next stitch. That scratching is my cat who wants attention. I'm going to half double crochet in the nose space. Chain 5. We're going to, once again, match up the other side, either do a single DC or a DC together in this last stitch right here. We're going to chain 3. I have 2 cats in my room right now. And we're going to join in the beginning right here. Okay? We're going to get right in the... Oh! Boy. I have 3 cats in here. One just almost spilled my coffee. Okay, so I'm going to leave it right there for a second, and I will be right back after I remove some cats. Okay, after dealing with a few cats there, getting a refill on my coffee, I am back. We're going to start round 10. So what we're going to be doing this round is we're going to be putting a shell in this space. We're going to be chaining 2, putting a shell in this space, and then we're going to start working I guess you could say the eyebrows. And then we're going to do a shell, chain 2, shell, and we're going to work that all the way around. Okay? This is round 10. I actually have 9 cats. It's the most I've ever had at one time. And love them to death, but oh my god, they're pains in the butts. We have some older one. We have one old one left, and then they kind of trickle down to just under a year. So, fun for me. We also have 3 lizards. So tell me down below if you're a cat person or a dog person. And tell me what kind of animals you have and how many. And name them too. All of our cats are named after like god and goddesses, heaven and hell type thing. We started, our first cat was Dio, named after the singer Ronnie James Dio, because we absolutely love Ronnie James Dio. And then our next cat we adopted was Lucy, so we hyphenated it and called her Lucy Fur. And then from there we went into Hades and Hera, Persephone, Pandora. We have Fauna, Flora, Freya, Odin, Anubis, Ares. Let's see, Himmel, Shiva. Yeah, we've gone down that rabbit hole of god and goddesses. So tell me down below. Name your cats. Or your dogs. Tell me what kind of animals you like. If you have birds, whatever. One of my testers has a bird. Oh my goodness. It breaks her thread quite a bit. It's hilarious. Beautiful little brightly colored bird. Okay, let's get back to the snow. Now that we waffled on a bit. So we just did our shell, chain 2, and shell. So we shelled in each one with a chain 2 in between. We're going to chain 3. Well, actually, no, we're going to chain, nope, chain 3. See, this is why I don't use my pattern anymore, and I just zip through it. Okay, what we're going to do is put a single crochet right in this first stitch here. Okay, now we're going to put 6 single crochets in this loop, and 6 single crochets in this loop, and a single crochet right in this last stitch. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just gonna skip this. Do 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we're gonna put a single crochet in this last stitch right here. Okay. Gonna chain 3 and work our shell in the next shell space. Gonna chain 2 and work a shell in the next shell space. Okay, let's review. So we did a shell, chain 2 and a shell, chain 3, single crochet in the next stitch, 6 single crochet in the chain space, 6 single crochet in this chain space, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 3, and then we shelled in it the next shell space, chain 2, shell in the next shell space. Okay, and you repeat that all the way around, and I will see you when I get right there. Okay, I'm back on this side, and I'm about to do my last one. I also want to add, I'm not a crazy cat lady. My husband is the one that does the cats. He's the cat lady. I'm just the lady that they're driving crazy. Okay? I just want to get that out there. Okay. Love my cats, but they drive me crazy. Okay. So now we're going to start this last section here. We're going to shell in the shell space. we're going to chain 2. We're going to shell in the next shell space. Okay, we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip this chain, do a single right here, single crochet in the next stitch. We're going to do 6 single crochets in each of the next 2 chains. And 6 single crochet in that next stitch right there. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to end our row. We're going to finish off the row right there. Okay. And as you can see, it's curling pretty nice. Don't worry, that will come out within the next rows as well as when you block. Okay. Remember, this was my first pattern, and I didn't really take into account some of the stuff. My later patterns, I try to keep them as flat as I possibly can and use very minimal blocking, because some people, they don't block their doilies. So I know when I first started crocheting, I didn't know about blocking. But I do know the importance of blocking now, especially when you have these little curled things. So let me know if you want me to do a little lesson about blocking, what I personally do, how I prepare my starch and stuff like that. Just let me know down below, and I'll be happy to make a short little video to help out with that. Okay, so let me take a sip of coffee and we will get started on round 11. How do you take your coffee? I drink mine black, straight black. So I like it medium strength to strong, and nothing in it. I can drink it hot, I drink it cold, drink it iced, but always black. Always, always black. Okay. I want to spend my calories eating something good. I don't want them wasted in my coffee, so black, black, black. Okay, so let's start row 11. Okay, we're going to put a shell in that shell space, or our beginning shell. Okay, now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to put a V-stitch right in this space. A V-stitch contains a double crochet, a chain 2, and a double crochet, okay? Otherwise known as a V-stitch. And we're going to put that right in this chain space. So we're going to chain 2, work our V-stitch, yep, maybe. Chain 2, and then we're going to work a shell in that shell space. Now we're going to work a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to skip the chain, and we're going to skip the first stitch. We're going to single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to finish off the row with a single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now now that we have this established, I'm going to frog this real quick, and I'm going to show you a little trick so that way you don't have to do any frogging if you miscount. You can adapt, okay? So if you ever have a lot of single crochets in there, and it's not really a big pattern design, it's just a bunch of single crochets, but you get to the end and your count is off, what you can always do is, especially on this one, we have that, oh, that's my 6th one right there. We have that stitch I skipped right here. So if I only accidentally put 5 single crochet in there, I just don't skip this one. I will frog it back and don't skip that one. I'll put my 6 in there, okay? Or if you find that maybe you put 7 stitches in here, well then you not only skip this, but then you work a single crochet decrease in there, okay? So there are some little tricks to hide certain things, so you don't have to frog all the way back, okay? But in this case, my count was correct, so I put 6, I skipped the first stitch, single crochet in the next 6 stitches. I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So I hope that little trick kind of helps out so that way you don't panic and you get the same look, because no one's going to go in there with a magnifying glass and go, oh, they screwed up. No one's going to do that. Only you will know, and then eventually you're going to forget it too. You're never going to be able to find it, okay? So then so right here is going to be a total of 12 stitches, okay? 2 are going to be skipped and 12 single crochets in that spot. So now we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip the chain space, work a shell in the next shell space, chain 2, shell in the next shell space, chain 2, working our V stitch in the next shell space, or in the next chain space, I'm sorry, 2, and then we're going to shell in in the next shell space right there. Okay. So just a review on that, we did a shell, chain 2, V-stitch in the chain space, chain 2, shell in the next shell space, chain 3, we're going to skip the chain and the first stitch. We're going to single crochet across the next 6 stitches, skip a stitch, crochet or single crochet across the next 6 stitches, chain 3, we're going to skip the chain space and work a shell in the next shell space, chain 2, V-stitch in the next chain space, and that shell in the next shell space, and we're going to work that all the way around, okay? And I will see you when I get to this. I'll see you right over here. Okay, I'm about to start my last little section right here. So we're going to shell in that shell space, chain 2, do our last 2 DC in there, chain 2, work our V-stitch in the next stitch, or the next chain space, I'm sorry, 2, we're going to shell in the next shell space, okay, going to chain 3, we're going to skip that first stitch, single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip the next stitch, work single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 3, and join in the beginning chain. Okay. So now you can see we have the skull really going on here, and we have what you can start to see it framing the skulls. Okay, so now we will be moving on to round 12. And before I get started, let me tell you what's going to be going on here. Oh, this one was spread out nice, so I'll just explain it in this one. Okay, so we're going to shell in the shell space. We're going to chain 2. We're going to V-stitch in this chain space. We're going to V-stitch in this space and V-stitch in this space. There's no chains in between. It's just V-stitch, V-stitch, V-stitch. Okay? Then we are going to chain 2. We're going to double crochet, or sorry, we're going to shell in that next shell space. Then we are going to chain 3, and we're going to skip the chain space. We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to single crochet in each of the next 10 stitches. We're then going to chain 3. We're going to skip the next stitch and shell in the next shell space, and then chain 2, and then V-stitch, 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 chain 2, shell in the next shell space, and then repeat all the way around. Okay? So let's get started. Do our beginning shell here. A good way to start to learn how to read patterns is if you follow people and they're doing this kind of work and you're following along with them. What you can do is get a piece of paper or a notebook and a pen and paper, and if you hear the terms, like I just said, V-stitch, and that's easily you can write that down on your piece of paper. And if you know what that is, you can use that in the future for when you want to recreate this pattern, but you don't want to watch the video, or you want to watch the video but you have your notes with you. You can really write down what I'm doing here. Like it says begin shell right here. Chain 2, V-stitch in the next 3 chain spaces. You can literally write that down. And by taking your own notes, just like you used to do in high school or college, you can actually learn how to read patterns that way. So if you do want to learn how to read patterns, that would be a great way to transition to do that. Okay? So let me finish this real quick and I'll go back to show you what I just did, since I waffled on there. Okay, so while I was chatting right there, I worked a shell, chain 2, V-stitch in each of the next spaces, chain 2, and a shell in the shell space. Okay, lay that flat for you. Okay, so now we're going to work on the top of the skull. We're going to chain 3, skip the chain space, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in each of the next 10 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip that next stitch, skip the chain space, and shell in the next shell space. We're going to work our chain 2 and then V-stitch in each of the next 3 chain spaces. Maybe. and we're going to chain 2 and shell in the next shell space. Okay, lay it flat so we can review. So we shelled, chain 2, V-stitch, 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 chain 2, shell space, chain 3, skip chain, skip stitch, 10 single crochets, chain 3, skip stitch, skip chain space, shell in the shell, V-stitch, 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 and shell, okay, with the chain 2 in between those. Okay, so you do that all the way around, and I will meet you on this side. Okay, now I'm going to finish up the last section right here. I'm going to shell in the shell space. Chain 2, V-stitch, V-stitch, V-stitch. We're going to chain 2, shell in the next shell space. Chain 3. We're going to skip the chain, skip the next stitch, and single crochet across the next 10 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, we're going to chain 3 and join at the beginning. Maybe if I can get it in there. Come on. Okay. Okie dokie. And you can see we have our little skull. Okay, and our frame is starting to close up a little bit more. So now we will start round 13. Okay, and before I start that, let me keep it flat and I'll tell you what we're going to do in this one. We're going to shell in the shell space. We're going to chain 3, and we are going to V-stitch in each one of the next 3 V spaces or V stitches. So we're going to shell, chain 3, V-stitch, 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 chain 3, shell in the next shell space, chain 3. We're going to skip the chain, skip the next 2 stitches, and single crochet in the next 6. We're then going to chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches, skip the chain space, shell in the next shell space, chain 3, V-stitch, 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 chain 3, shell in the next shell space. And we're going to do that all the way around, okay? So let's get started. Okay, for 1, 2, 3, we're going to skip this chain space right here, work a V-stitch inside the V-stitch there. And V-stitch in the next V-stitch. Okay, we're going to chain 3. We're going to shell in the next shell space. Okay, and we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip this chain space right here, and we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2. We're going to single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches right here and skip the chain space. We're going to shell in the next shell space. Okay, we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip the chain space right here and V-stitch, V-stitch, V-stitch. That's just fun to say. V-stitch, V-stitch, V-stitch. Then when we get those done, we're going to chain 3. We're going to shell in the shell space. Okay, let's review what we did right here. So we did our beginning shell, chain 3, V-stitch, 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 chain 3, shell in the shell space, chain 3, skip the chain space, skip 2 stitches, single crocheted across the next 6, chain 3, skip 2 stitches, shell in the next shell space, chain 3, and then V-stitch, 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 chain 3, skip that little chain space, and shell in the next shell space, okay? And you're going to do that all the way around, and I will meet you when I get over here. Okie dokie. Nice to see you back on this side. So I'm going to start my last little section here. So I'm going to shell in the shell space. Going to chain 3, skip the chain space, and V-stitch, V-stitch, V-stitch. Chain 3, and then shell in the next shell space. Going to chain 3. We're going to skip the chain space and skip the next 2 stitches, working 6 single crochets across the next stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 3. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, skip the chain space, and join in the top of the beginning. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to start round 14. So let's kind of review what we're going to do before we start. Going to shell in the shell space. We're going to chain 3 and double crochet in the next shell space. Chain 3, double crochet in the chain 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 space. Chain 3, shell in the shell. Okay? So we will end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets and the chain spaces in between. Okay? And then we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip the chain space, skip the next 2 stitches, and single crochet in each. There's 6 stitches here, so you're going to single crochet in each of the 2 middle. So you're going to skip 2, single crochet, chain 3, and work your shell. Chain 3 DC, chain 3 DC, chain 3 DC, chain 3 DC. Yeah, you get my drift. Now you can either do 2 singles in those 2 center stitches, or what I've been doing is doing a single crochet decrease across the 2 stitches. Okay, so I'll show you both ways when we get working. So let's begin. This is round 14 if you're following on the patterns. around the pattern. Okay, gonna work our beginning shell here. I just realized I don't have my little Creative Works by Annie sticker right there, which if you want some of my stickers to put either on your laptop or your, I guess, your car, anywhere, if you have a sticker board, whatnot, I actually frame stickers and put them on my wall. If you want any of these, just go to my Etsy store. I have these, or this one, I have just my butterfly logo, as well as a couple others, I think another sticker, and I got pins, and I will have coffee cups really soon as well. So if you want one of my little stickers and you want to support me, all the money just goes back into all of this stuff. And if you like the video, there's a link down below to Linktree, which if you click onto that and you open that, there's an option to support my coffee habit, because coffee is my blood type. And there's also a place where you can find my patterns on Etsy and Ravelry. Etsy does carry some of my bone art and my other artistry, so please check that out, as well as you can find stickers and other merchandise there. Then you can find where to find me on TikTok, Instagram. I'm not the biggest TikToker, but I'm there. Let's see, Facebook. You can always message me through Facebook, and I'll be try my best to quick respond to Facebook or my Etsy. Those are the two best places to get me. Those are the ones I get the best notifications that somebody alerted me on. Also, if you really want to help out and keep me crocheting or in any of my other artistry, I do have an Amazon wish list. I'm not asking for you to do any of that, but if you want to support, please feel free to do that. I don't have big elaborate things on there. I just have exactly what I need, what I want to crochet with, or what I used to crochet, I carve, paint, drawing, stuff like that. So I'm not asking you to, but if you want to, it's there just in case. And then if you do that, please tell me, and so that way I can properly thank you and maybe unbox it in one of the videos and really give you a proper thank you for doing that kind of a thing. Okay, so let's start round 14. So we're going to shell in the shell space. We're going to chain 3. We're going to DC in the next chain space. Chain 3, DC, chain 3, DC, chain 3, DC, chain 3, chain 3, chain 3, and then shell in the next shell space. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Okay. Pretty simple right there. Okay. Now we're going to chain 3, and we're going to skip this chain space, and we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. Now, as written in the pattern, we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches, chain 3, and shell in the next shell space, if it cooperates. Okay, so that's what it looks like when you do 2 right in the center there. Okay, so let me frog that back, and I'll show you how I normally do it in when I usually work up the pattern. Okay, so you can do it either way, do the 2 single crochets or do what I'm doing next. So I'm going to chain 3, skip the chain space, skip the next 2 stitches, and work a single crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches. Okay, chain 3, and then shell in the next shell space. So it's really up to you how you want to do that. Okay, let me show you how that one looks. So you don't get much of a difference. It just depends on how you want to roll with it, I guess. Okay, so let's finish this section here. We're going to chain 3, gonna double crochet, chain 3, 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 and then shell. Okay, let's lay this down so you can check this out. Okay. It does curl a bit, and this is why you gotta do your blocking. Okay. So you can see it's a shell, your chain spaces, and your double crochets. Your shell, your chain 3, you're gonna skip chain, skip 2 stitches, and either do a decrease, a single crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches, or work 2 single crochets in there. Then you're going to chain 3, skip the 2 stitches, skip the chain space, shell in the next shell space, chain 3, DC, chain 3, DC, so on and so on until you get to the next shell space. Okay, so we're going to repeat that all the way around, and I will see you on the flip side. Okay, I'm getting ready to start my last little section here. Just gonna shell in that shell space. Chain 3. DC chain 3. Crossed to the next shell space there. And then we shell in the next shell space. We're going to chain 3, skip the chain space, skip next 2 stitches, and either work a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches or work a single crochet decrease over the next 2. It's really up to you how you want that to look. Okay. Then we're going to chain 3. We're going to join up with our beginning shell. Let's check this out here. Yes, it does curl. It will come out when you do your blocking. Okay, so now we're going to start row 15. So let's explain that first before we get started. We're going to do a shell in the shell space. We're going to do a chain 2, and we're going to put 2 DC in the next chain space. Chain 2, 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC. Chain 2, shell in the next shell space, chain 2 once again, and shell in the next shell space. We are all done working on the skull. Okay? So we're going to start our shell in the shell space. Chain 2, work 2 DC in the next chain space. Chain 2, 2 DC in the next chain space. And we keep doing that till we get to the next shell. Okay, and we're going to chain 2 when we get to the end right there, and shell in the next shell space. Before we take a look, let's just keep going real quick. To finish this little section off, we're going to chain 2, skip the chains, skip the stitches, and right into the next shell space, we're going to work another shell. Okay, let's take a look here. See, that helped flatten that out a little bit. Okay, so just to review, we have a shell, chain 2 and 2 DC, and you do a chain 2 and 2 DC in each one of those chain spaces till you get up to the shell space, working your shell. You're going to chain 2, you're going to skip your chains here and your stitches and work another shell in the shell space. Okay? You're going to work that all the way around, and I will meet you back on this side. Okay, I'm going to, this is my last little section here, and I'm going to finish this up with you. So just above the skull here, remember we chained 2 and then shelled in the shell space. Okay, I'm going to chain 2 and double crochet in the next chain space, chain 2, 2 DC in the next chain space, and keep repeating that until we get to the next shell space. Am I saying shells and chain spaces here? It's 2 double crochets in the next chain space. Okay. Keep forgetting I'm not talking to myself. I'm just talking to myself while you're listening. So when we get to all the way across and we get to the next shell space, we chain 2 and we shell in that shell space. We chain 2. We're going to skip the chains and the stitches. We're going to join in the beginning chain there. Okay, and get over into that chain space. Yes, it is wrinkling. This is why we block. This is the one that I always need a block. Always, always, always. Okay. Now, round 16, if you know how to do a regular, one of my friends told me I was saying this wrong, but I'm just going to say it wrong because that's how I learned how to do it. Picket, or picot, I have no idea. It's a picket. I'm just going to call it a picket. So you can either do one of those, or you can do my adapted version, which I just find easier and I think it looks better. So let's begin. This is the last row, by the way. So instead of doing a beginning shell here, we're going to chain 3 and DC in that same spot. Okay? Now this is where you would do your picket or picket, whatever. That little awful knob that a lot of people hate making. That's what we're going to be doing here. Okay? So I'm going to chain 3. And what I do is I wiggle my hook in the top of the DC I made. Okay? And I'm going to single crochet in that. Okay? So it gives me a little picket stitch. And I'm going to do 2 DC in the next chain space. I'm going to chain 3, single crochet in top of that last stitch made. We're skipping the stitches, putting 2 DC in the next chain space, chain 3, and single crochet in the next, or in the last stitch you just made, okay? And so you see that you have the little bumps in between the DC, okay? And you're going to do this in every single chain space, all the way around, okay? I'm going to work the rest of this with you, and then I'll catch you on this side afterwards, okay? Because this is a very repetitive round, but I want to show you in between here. Now, if you're doing the regular little annoying picket type thing, you will need to, let me show you one of those. So 1, 2, 3, and then you slip stitch into that, the third chain right here from the hook. And as you can see, it's a little more difficult. It's a little bit pain in the ass. Sorry, can't say that. Pain in the butt. And then you can just work your following, okay? So really you can do either way. I just happen to find this way is quicker than this way, okay? So let me do my way again. 3, and you pick up both of those loops, which is the top of the stitch, and then single crochet, okay? So double crochet, chain 3, wiggle into here, finish off like you're doing a single crochet in there, okay? You can see it works up a lot faster if you do it that way. Thread here. Okay, when we get to the shell, the next shell space, we're going to just work the 2DC, chain our 3, single crochet in the top of that last stitch, and then we're going to do the same thing in this space right here. So you're just doing the 2DC, chain 3, single crochet on the top of the last stitch in every single available chain space all the way around the edge, okay? So I will meet you on the other side to finish it all up. Okay, I'm just finishing up my row now. So as you can see, when these have nice, the way that I like to do them, they are just nice and little even things, and if you see up close, you can, it just has a nice little even bloopy flow to those stupid little annoying little bumps there. Okay, so remember we are double crocheting or 2DC, chain 3, wiggling it in top of that stitch right there. Then we're repeating that in the next chain space. And we're going to finish off the row. We're going to join right in the beginning, top there. Okay? We're going to, oh, come on, I'm hooked on something. Going to make our tail. And we're going to finish that up. Okay? We're going to tuck in our tail and make sure you block. Okay? if you want to see me do my blocking technique, what I do for how I do my starching, or how I create my starch water, and how I do all that and do my pinning. A lot of people will pin this round. I pin mine with a little more shape to it. So I get asked a lot, oh, did you come out with a new pattern? No, it's the same thing. I just pin it different than most people. So tell me if you want me to do a short little video about blocking, because I will be happy to do so. And if you want to find my stickers or find any of my bone work, like I said, I have coffee cups coming out. Please check out my Etsy page, and you will be able to find some wonderful little things in there. So I even do some jewelry. I don't have too much jewelry in there, but I do jewelry, rosaries, the carved skulls, painted bones, carved bones, stuff like that. And you can also find all my patterns there. I do on Ravelry, I just have my patterns, my crochet patterns, and on Ravelry is where you can find my free patterns that I have, including my Skull and Tine pattern. So if you're watching this and you still have time to create for Valentine's Day for your skull-loving sweetie, go ahead over there and pick up that pattern. So that's it for today. So with that, I will let you go. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to share this video, and I will see you next time. Thank you.